Swagger on point when I step in. Signs in the air for the gang that you're repping. Don't get brave when I'm stepping in the rave. If you show man love, everything's okay. So looking for a lively rave to have fun in. If there ain't girls in the place, we ain't coming. Middle finger up to the Jake, stepping in with the gang. Please tell the police they can't come in. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Man a sign if you're down for the gang.
Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. We be busting the clubs, cause you know that we can. Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. Still rocking the show, still feeling the flow.
Welcome back, Juventinita, to the Juventinita Back to Black and White podcast. My name is Daniel Negro, and I'm live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Today we're going to be covering the preview of the Juve-Milan game, and obviously it's going to be a pretty interesting affair. We're kind of moving into the gauntlet, as I keep calling it. Obviously, Juve, we're looking to solidify the title, and Milan is obviously trying to continue their form. Obviously beating Lazio 3-0, which obviously did us a favor. But now we're next in line in the crosshairs, so let's see what's gonna happen. Obviously, guys, as usual, please drop a like, hit the bell for notifications. Again, that just makes it easier for you every time the podcast comes up. If YouTube is your go-to platform, again, please hit the subscribe. It definitely helps more than probably a lot of you know. But thank you very much for all of the supporters that we have as of late. And yeah, guys, check obviously iTunes, Spotify, Podbean if that's your kink. But yeah, again, if you could just follow those, drop a rating. Obviously, honest rating. Like I said, even in these videos, you know, anything that you guys like, you want to hear, don't want to hear. In terms of the technical side, some of that is a little bit more limited into what I could do, obviously, for now. But yeah, I definitely enjoy. I've enjoyed doing it so far, and again, we've gotten some great guests, and again, now we're going to bring in another fellow Canadian, Danny from Toronto, Canada. Welcome to the Juventinita podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So we got another Canadian. Rocco's going to be next. Obviously, that'll be the post match, but. Yeah, definitely interesting start to the season. Let's get into it more of like a nostalgic kind of tone. How did you become a Juve fan? Because I know you're not necessarily have been on a lot of podcasts. I'm guessing this is your first one, correct?
This is my first soccer one, actually.
There you go.
I've been on a ton of hockey ones, but this is my first soccer one. But no, to answer your Juve question, I've never been historically a Juve fan, but you know, I used to watch them a lot with my grandfather, my nonno, who's Italian and who watches a lot of Serie A, and obviously my favorite player, Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, joined Juventus not too long ago, so I had to make the switch to watch my boy, and you know, it's been nothing but fruitful, and you know, we're gonna hope that he can help deliver Juve's dream, which is to bring home a Champions League to Turin.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you were saying you're obviously half Italian, half Portuguese, correct? So that, you know, that makes sense. You know, obviously before, you know, the whole transfer saga kind of was taking place. Just give us your thoughts about what you kind of knew about Juve. Obviously, you seem to be a young guy, so I'm guessing you're younger than I'm gonna assume you're younger than me.
I'm 21.
Okay,
21.
so we're not too far apart, but still. Kind of what were your thoughts about Juve? You know, hearing about the club, just the history. You know, what did you know before? You know, obviously the whole transfer took place, because I definitely didn't think it was going to happen. kind of shocked me, the whole ordeal of that saga. But just to give fans that maybe have been here for long or even less time, kind of that are in the same situation that you were in, because we did have an influx of fans, obviously when Ronaldo joined. So you give us kind of a little bit of a picture of what you kind of were looking into and what you were kind of expecting of the club.
Well, in terms of the history, I knew a little bit about Juventus and their origins and where it all took place, and all the Scudettos they've won. And even though I'm not a hardcore Juve fan, I have a lot of respect for the club. I have a lot of respect for the history, which Juventus has a lot of. And because Ronaldo has transferred over, that's meant that I've invested more personal time into the club in terms of watching games and even buying my first Juventus jersey with his name on the back. Yeah,
it's not a test, by the way. I'm not trying to grill you or anything. I mean, like, when was the founding date? When was?
No, I mean,
you know what I mean. Like,
yeah. No, I mean, to be like more specific, I started following Juve more closely, obviously, when Ronaldo made the transfer over. I did know a little bit about Juve before Ronaldo moved over because I have a lot of friends that are Juve fans and that are like staunch Juve fans, kind of like yourself. They bleed white and black, and that's good, right? We all have our club, and but to be more specific, the one thing that gravitated me towards a club like Juventus is the history and the fans and just the atmosphere in their stadium. I've never been, but I can see it through the television, and I know there's a lot of diehard fans. And when I saw their reaction and I saw their face when they acquired a player of Ronaldo's caliber, you just saw everyone's eyes light up with all this passion and this glory. And, it was, now we got the player. Now we can try and push towards our goal, which is the Champions League, right? So that's kind of my origins, to best put it.
Okay, so I have kind of another off-topic, little bit of an off-topic question that I just got to my head. So, yeah, obviously you're from Toronto, right?
Yeah.
And again, guys, if you want to like tune out for this one, you can go ahead. How did you become a Florida Panthers fan? For everyone out there, if you're from Toronto, you're probably a Leafs fan. I know some Leafs fans over here. I mean, it's a pretty big following in Canada, right? Hockey. But how did you become a in blue and white territory? So what happened in there? I need to hear the story.
Wow, that's a really off-topic question, Dan, but it's good. I was at a pretty young age. I was around 7, 8 years old, and it was when Florida, they had their old logo, right? The Leaping Panther, which I'm sure you remember, and a lot of listeners probably remember that watch and follow hockey. And I remember the logo is kind of what pulled me towards Florida. And back then, when I was younger, we didn't really have live streaming, right? I'm talking like over 10, even 15 years ago, we didn't have, the live streaming quality or the abundance of options that we have now. So I remember quite well watching all the Florida games when they would play Toronto, right? Just because I'm from Toronto and I get the channels for all the Leaf games. So I would get to watch my team 4 times a year. And eventually when live streaming came about and it took form and it kind of pushed from there, my father introduced me to that, and that was a way to strengthen my love for the team and my support for the team, which meant that instead of watching 4 games, I could watch 82 games. And from there, I kept supporting the team, even though it's been pretty rough. Florida has not experienced many good seasons at all, and I've only had the opportunity to see them make the playoffs once in my lifetime. This summer will be the second if you count the play-in series as the playoffs. But that's a discussion for another day. But those are basically my origins with the Panthers here in Toronto. And I can say that whenever I would go and watch the team, whether it's in Buffalo, which is about an hour and a half drive from where I am, or even just watching them here in Toronto at the Scotiabank Arena, I'm one of very few Panther fans. So it makes for a great experience. But those are my origins with the Panthers. It was primarily the logo that got me started with the team, and the live streaming, me being able to watch and tune into all their games, basically strengthened my support for the team and has kept it going from there.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. And now, guys, you can tune back in if you just could care less about hockey. But no, I think it's cool, and obviously you write for them as well, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
plug it up, man. Plug it up.
Yeah.
I'm sure we got some. I'm sure we got some Florida Panthers fans. Well, I hope so. We got to start moving this out. So I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some. And Sunrise is where, just outside of Miami, I believe, right? So
That is correct.
it's,
More so in the Fort Lauderdale area.
oh, okay, so just north of the city. But yeah, no, definitely. So you write for Fansited, correct?
Yeah, it's the site is powered by Fansided. It's called theratrick.com. I've been writing for them, actually been managing the site since 2017, so I've been doing this for the past 3 years, and it's been very rewarding. I've met a lot of great people. I've been able to connect with a lot of people in the organizations, a lot of club officials and staff, and it's been very rewarding and it's been very fruitful.
Oh, nice, man. That's good to hear. And yeah, no, I'm definitely a Bruins fan. I think everyone knows we had Joe Cap there, also a fellow Bruins fan, and obviously I've gotten to talk to a couple others in North America that are obviously Juve fans, but they're in either New England, obviously cheering for the Rangers. Shout out Rose Nicole, and also some others as well. But I just needed to get that off my chest today. But let's get back into the Juve sphere. And we'll get into the news. Obviously, Iguain is looking potentially to leave at the end of the season. Obviously, that could be either to Argentina or maybe in the MLS. That obviously was from Romeo Agresti. And I guess as of right now, it's looking like we're going to have to get good use out of him, obviously, because of the circumstances in this coming up in this next game with yellow card accumulation. So I think there's lots of room for him to improve for us. Obviously, we're going to have to pick someone up for his replacement after the season if we're going to continue with this 4-3-3, because we're going to need a sub, obviously, as a number 9. But what are your thoughts about Iguain potentially leaving, and what are your thoughts about him, playing with us? Because he did have a good role in the first half of the season, if you remember.
Yeah. My take on Iguain is I personally think, Juve should try to offload him at all costs. I think, he's reached a period in his career where he's older, his legs are shot, he's not in top quality shape at all, and it seems like, he's frustrated by riding the bench, or riding the pine, so to speak. And we have to also remember he has some pretty heavy wages to his name that affects Juve in terms of going out and reconstructing their squad, or bringing in other players to fill other needs. So I think whether he goes to Argentina or MLS and just getting that money off the books is a win in all case scenario. Right. To the second part of what you mentioned, I remember quite well when Juventus spent all that money on Iguain, to bring him in as their big striker. When they brought him in from Napoli, I was actually a little surprised that Juventus was able to bring him in, just considering that he's at Napoli, and I wasn't sure if Napoli was really going to sell their top player, their best player, to the best team in Italy, right? Because you never want to strengthen an opponent, especially one that's winning Serie A left, right, and center, right? So when that happened, I thought that was a great move, right? And you made the Champions League finals, I remember, with him. You actually knocked out Monaco, which is another team I follow quite a bit. And, that's when you guys, you fell to Ronaldo's hands. But I remember that year, Iguain was great. He was arguably, he was for sure a top 5 striker in the world. And, everything was at his feet, basically. And then, unfortunately, it went down when Ronaldo came, because they shipped him off to Milan, right, on loan. And from there, unfortunately, it's gone down. So I'm in favor of personally offloading and Juve bringing in a striker who's versatile and that can play off of Ronaldo and play off of Dybala. Maybe like a guy like Cavani, because he can play in multiple roles
Right.
and he's used to Serie A, and it looks like he'll be a free transfer, and Juventus is very good at those. So if they could bring in someone like a Cavani to replace an Iguain, I think it would be great business all around. But I think first and foremost, I think you do have to get rid of Iguain, and even if you recognize he was a great player, he's just unfortunately not that player anymore.
Right. I agree 100% with that, and it's just time to move on. And I think it's better. Yeah, again, his salary is quite big, and especially with the other needs we need. And if we can take advantage of something like you said with getting a Cavani for free, it's going to help us out quite a bit. Obviously, next little piece of news that I forgot to add to the last podcast. Obviously, Gazzetta dello Sport did an interview with Marchisio, obviously one of our club legends, and there was a lot of talk about obviously the derby della Mole, obviously with Torino, and obviously they brought up Dybala in one of the questions, and saying, will Dybala become a bandiera of the club? And if you don't know what that means, it's kind of essentially a different way of saying a legend, kind of, someone who's not just a player who's been really good for the club, but really means something to the club and is kind of your someone you really think of, carrying the flag for the club, as the word bandiera means, right? So obviously Marquisio's response, his class is unquestionable. He's one of the purest talents in world football. Those who criticize him don't understand football. He has an excellent relationship with the club, and I hope he will become a bandiera and win the CL. And I think I could agree with that statement. Just has been unbelievable this year. Has really kind of turned it around from last year, and I really got to applaud him, because it could have been as easy as just saying, you know what, I'm tired of this shit, and just leaving last transfer window. I think he was kind of the reason why the deals didn't work out, and now it's come back tenfold for us and himself. And I think it's a beautiful relationship that hopefully we're still waiting on this extension that they keep talking about. I don't know what's taking so long, but it's getting ridiculous in my eyes. But then the next thing was asked of him, obviously the derby that he loved the most. Obviously, he talked about his first time playing at the J Stadium, and he recalls a moment where they had a dinner, which was organized by Agnelli, and he left before dessert. Obviously, the coach at the time was Antonio Conte, and he said it's pretty early, why don't you stay a while? And but he said he was pretty nervous. Obviously, this was the derby that I was talking about, where he had scored twice. It was a something that you could dream of. And also, I believe it was when Jovinko scored as well. It was a 3-0 win. So something that I talked about in the last podcast about I think it was like the only game where there was 3 players that were obviously born in Turin, and obviously youth products as well, to come in and score in that game. And then next, obviously, he talked about his first derby, Della Mole, and that's when he was a ball boy. If you don't know, he's been around this club for a really long time. Unfortunately, it was the game where Maspero obviously dug a hole and Salas skied the penalty. And everyone was kind of arguing, and around Turin kind of made a little bit of a better point than when I mentioned it. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of discussion about the penalty, and no one was looking, and the Torino player was basically he kind of dug a hole in the penalty spot, at the edge of the penalty spot, and then we skied. Obviously, it ended 3-3. That could have been the winner for us. And then obviously what happened in the second game, you guys all know. Obviously, it was still a draw, but the famous Toro by Maresca. But anyways, he said he was disappointed, but it was one of the most beautiful derbies he'd ever seen. Obviously, that would have been in, a classic stadium. That is, again, it was a different feel. Obviously, it had a racetrack, the Del Alpi, but definitely emotional to hear that, and it was great to hear him again. Obviously, talking about the leagues this year, everyone kind of, Serie A gets kind of a bad reputation of being a defensive, that everyone talks about Catenaccio, but if you're looking at the average goals, obviously in the top 5 leagues this season, Serie A is right there at the top of the Bundesliga, 2.99 goals average per game, and if you've looked at the past few rounds, 4-1 from us. There was a 3-0 win by Milan against Lazio. I believe there was a 4-2 Sassuolo win against Lecce. So, I think we're kind of turning heads, and I think things are changing. A lot of younger players are coming. Obviously, Artur's coming. Hakimi's coming from Madrid for Inter Merda. But so I think it's moving. I think Serie A is going to be one of the destinations to look forward to in the near future. And again, with Serie A, obviously, again, being, let's say, a newer fan, what was kind of your pre-notions of the league, and what were your thoughts on, obviously, Ronaldo coming in to a league like this?
Well, I think my pre-notions with Serie A is basically what you said. Obviously, the typical and the standard defensive first, the Catenaccio, the playing 8 guys behind the ball. But like you said, if you look at the stats, offense has been increasing over the last, not only this past year, but over the last couple of seasons, right? And it's almost or pretty much on par with a league like the Bundesliga, which is known for attacking and counter-attacking and, systems like that, which is good to see. I think from a fan's perspective, the more goals you see, the more fun and the more entertaining the game is, right? And at the same time, like you mentioned, there's more young players taking their talents to Serie A, where in the past that wasn't really happening.
Right.
It wasn't really happening. If anything, it was the opposite. It was young players leaving to go to other leagues. It's really good that Serie A can not only retain their players, but they are now attracting players to help increase the level of their league and to hopefully bring it back to what it was in the early 2000s and even the 90s, right? Because then it was obviously one of the top leagues in the world, but arguably speaking, maybe you could make the argument that it was the best league in the world. Obviously there's the Premier League, but you had a lot of powerhouses in Italy, and I think we can't forget that, even though it was 20, 25 years ago. But in terms of Ronaldo, when he came to Serie A, I was actually a little excited, and I actually did convince myself, because I remember when I first saw the reports that, he wanted out of Madrid, and I heard Juventus was on the radar. I thought at first, would he really want to go to a club like that? A club, he was beating quite a bit in the Champions League, and the club that has fallen short quite a few times in the Champions League final, not only to Real Madrid, but also to Barcelona the other time that they made the final appearance. So at first I wasn't for the move, but afterwards I thought, what, he's all about taking a journey, he's all about taking a chance. And you know what, Juventus have a pretty good team. The fact that they make the UCL finals, they're definitely no slouch, right? They were just basically a player away. And I thought, what, he's won quite a bit at Madrid. He's getting a little older, and Serie A it is a slower league than La Liga. I think we can all recognize that, and that may be better for his body. So I thought, what, it's a good challenge, and it'll be a nice scenery not only for him but for his fans. And at the same time, I would be able to bond a little bit more with my nonno, just being a Serie A fan. I would be able to learn more about the league because the league has a lot of history. And at the same time, it's always nice when you can kind of mix it up, and when other leagues are, increasing their ranks, so to speak, and it's not always the same leagues and the same league coefficients. It's always nice to see now that Serie A is making some more strides, and some clubs in Germany making some strides as well, and so on and so forth. So just seeing that. Just seeing that change was really nice, and the scenery altogether, I think, fits Ronaldo well. And I know he's dreaming big, and I know he's working really hard to deliver Juve what he's promised.
Yeah, and I definitely personally, I think it's better to get that reputation, because as a whole, then the league becomes better. And obviously, we're getting the better talent, and, in general, the revenues can pick up. And then again, that opens a whole other door for not just for your team as well, but, for a lot of other teams in the league as well, top to bottom. But the last couple things in the news, some things, again, a couple that I missed. Obviously, Bonucci was playing his 400th game against Torino, and that's obviously in all competitions, and he's going to be he is the player with the most appearances in the last 10 years. Obviously, Bernardeschi played his game number 100, so congratulations for that. Haven't received a lot, maybe a couple, 3-4 performances in those 100, but that's all right. We'll take what we can get. And just a shout out, recently I've been looking on my YouTube channel, and I just got a couple copyright claims. So guys, so Sono Sweet, keep your shit in check, man. If you're copyrighting a 13-second part of a song that I have full licensing to, and you're gonna claim 4 of my videos where I've had pretty much, I want to say 16 out of 17 with the same song, and you've copyright claimed 4 of them. Please do your job correctly and figure your shit out, because I don't want to have to be putting in disputes for no reason. But anyways, let's get back to this game. Obviously, the game is going to be on Tuesday, July 7th. It's going to be a 9:45 p.m. Central European Standard Time kickoff. Obviously, 1:45 for me in the Mountain Region, 12:45 Pacific, 3:45 Eastern Time. Just looking at the teams, obviously Juve's got a record of 24-3-3 with 75 points. We're top of the league, class of the league. Obviously Milan is lagging a little bit behind. Obviously 13-7-10 with 46 points. They just dropped down to 7th place, obviously, with the Napoli result today with the win against Roma. But yeah, no, they did have a big win, 3-0 win against Lazio. Very impressive, to say the least. Obviously, Lazio didn't have Caicedo and Immobile, so that was obviously based off of card accumulation. But that was very, very interesting to see. I think it's going to be a really tough game. Obviously, Ronaldo's our top scorer with 25 goals. First time since Omar Sividi in 1960-61, as I mentioned on the last pod. And for Milan, though, Ante Rebic is doing damage for them as of late. He's got 9 goals this year, but he's definitely put in some work in the last little while here. Obviously, for us, like I said, I'll mention it again, no De Ligt or Dibala, obviously on yellow card accumulation. That's going to be a big blow to us, I think. For Milan, Leo Duarte, Matteo Musacchio, and again, Castillejo is a little bit of an iffy play. He might be in, he might not be. The first 2 obviously will be gone because of injuries. Çalhanoğlu obviously went off with a late knock. We're not sure if he'll be in. He is in my presumptive formation that we'll get into in a little bit. But and then again, Ibra went off a little early as well. I believe around halftime. So definitely not sure if he's going to make the start. But yeah, that's kind of the setting the stage for this game. Let's kind of take a little bit of a back step, though. What did you think of our last game against Torino, Danny?
Well, I thought it was better. The tempo was quicker. The passing was better, which was good to see because, Juve's passing hasn't always been accurate or crisp,
Right.
to put it lightly. So, that was better. And, they started using the wings more, which is always good to see because, in the past, Juventus, they love to go through the middle and it's just very easy to defend, right? So
Right.
it's very good that they're starting to open up the game. And, that not only benefits them and especially Ronaldo, who plays better when the game's spread out, but it also benefits guys like, Bernardeschi when he starts because he's been pretty good
Right.
just after COVID, and especially Dibala, right? He does much better when the wings and the flanks are open. So all in all, I thought it was a good game. I was really impressed with Cuadrado especially. I wasn't sure how he would do on right back when he made the switch, but you know what?
Okay.
It seems like he's found his little niche. Now we'll have to see how he does in terms of against better quality opponents. But I think for now, keeping him in that wing back position, I think he's been really, really good there, and it's good to see that Juventus has been able to solve a problem with an internal option that they own
Right.
rather than going out and buying, because that's always great, right? Whenever you have an internal option, you can just plug him in and play, right? And I'm a big fan of Cuadrado. I really like his game, so that was great to see. Like you mentioned, next game it's going to be a little tough without Delit and Dibala, who are out with yellow card accumulations. So, guys like Ronaldo are going to have to step up even more. I do think they can win though, but it may be a little tough, especially without Dibala, who's been the heartbeat of Juve. I really have to admit he's been quite the influential piece this year.
And so what did you think about the free kicks? What do you think about Ronaldo still taking the free kicks? Because, I got to say it. Everyone out there is probably being like, say it. Bring up the free kicks. So,
Yeah.
What have you thought as of late? Obviously, that was his first in 43 attempts. Even looking at before, not necessarily saying that he was bad, but I believe he was on about a 6.25% scoring rate before he came to Juventus, just off of a post that was made by around Turin. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Ronaldo? Obviously, he's and I don't think that includes international play. I think that was just solely on the club level. But I've seen what he's done against games like against Spain and stuff like that, and he's definitely can change. Obviously, scores a lot of nice free kick when they do go in. But what are your thoughts on the whole situation, and obviously getting off the mark that game?
Well, first and foremost, I thought the free kick, he needed it, right? He even said himself that he needed it for his confidence, which was good. It was a well-struck free kick. I think we can all admit that.
Yep.
There was no chance. I believe it was Sirigu in that, right?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. Sirigu, he didn't have a chance. I don't think any goalie would have stopped that. It was perfectly placed. In terms of him being the free kick taker, it's a little tough, right? Because I can't lie, he's obviously declined in that aspect. He's the tendonitis injury that he suffered in 2014 during the World Cup has hurt him a bit. In terms of mobility and striking the ball, which a lot of people have said, and even quite a bit of doctors have come out and said that it affects the way he dribbles and it affects the way he strikes the ball from set pieces like free kicks. I do believe that Dybala is a better free kick taker at this present moment, so I wouldn't be mad if Dybala took the majority of the free kicks. There's also someone else who posted an idea, and I thought it was not only fair, but I thought it would probably work effectively, and that's Dybala takes the free kicks from close range, 20, 25 yards, because he can curl them in. He's more accurate that way. And, maybe you let Ronaldo take them from further out, like 35 yards out. And, because he hits it with a lot of power. But the thing with Ronaldo is the free kick he took against Torino, he didn't strike it the normal way he does. And the same goal he scored against Spain, he didn't strike that the normal way he does. So it seems like if Ronaldo's going to be successful with free kicks, he has to use that technique instead of exactly. And instead of using this whole thumping the ball, going for power all the time, he needs to go more with the finesse and the curve. That way he has more mobility with his knee, which makes all the difference with free kicks and accuracy and placement and all of that. And it's clear he can still hit them, but it's also very clear that he can't strike them as well as he used to. So if he's going to stay as the free kick, taker, he's going to have to use that technique that he used against Torino and used against Spain. But if Sarri was to decide that, hey, Dybala is going to start taking them, I wouldn't mind either. And at age 35, Ronaldo does have to start understanding that his role is going to start changing, which means that things he used to do in the past, he can't, he just can't do anymore, right? It's a changing of the guard, right? So either way, if he's going to stay, he's going to have to keep that same technique he used against Torino. But if not, let Dybala take a few strikes. He can hit them well, and I'm pretty confident with him taking them, especially from 25 yards out.
Oh, respect. I gotta respect that because I don't hear that too often. There's the wild west of Twitter is you get very interested. You don't hear a lot of if you want to call it reasonable debate in certain senses, especially when you're talking about Ronaldo. But no, that's why I definitely had you on today.
Thank you.
Kind of what have you been thinking about, like, his play in general? Just kind of, have you been seeing, have you seen how he's been, moving on the pitch, and where he's kind of playing? Give us an idea of how you think Ronaldo's actually been, like. Do you think he's been one of the best? Obviously, he's had some pretty good games, but there's still a little bit of debate whether, if you take away the free kick in that game, it wasn't essentially a particularly great game for Ronaldo, which is fine. But just in general, what are your thoughts? Obviously, again, you can, even if you want to include Saturday and kind of how he's meshed with him, and then you can go back to, let's say, Allegri or whatever. But it's just in general, as of the past, you want to say 5-6 games, what are you thinking about Ronaldo's play?
Sure. In terms of Ronaldo, first and foremost, it's clear that his game has changed. He's 35 years old. He's not going to be as influential as he once was during his early to mid days in Madrid, or even in Manchester United, right? Fans that expect Ronaldo to pick up the ball from one end of the field and to dribble it all the way down and perform all these step overs, it's not going to happen, right? That's pure nostalgia. You're never going to get that Ronaldo back. He's 35. He's not 25, right? So
Right.
It's clear that if you're going to use Ronaldo properly and effectively, it has to be as a target man, right? It has to be as a guy you allow to move around and wander the pitch. And
Right.
you're going to have to provide him reliable service, right? Which includes crossing, good give and goes and all of that. And it's clear that when you do provide him reliable service, he can win you a game, like that, like the snap of your finger, right? So I think that's very clear. It's still clear he can change games. Over the last 5-6 games, I think he's been okay. I know right after COVID and once they started up again, he was a little slow. He missed the
Right.
penalty against Milan. It took him some time to get the engines going. I also remember the first game back, Dibala struggled,
Yeah.
too. So it's good that they've both found rhythm. But, what's been even more surprising, and not only that, but it's been great to see the chemistry that those two have created, because it seems like their chemistry is stronger now than it was ever before.
Right.
And I think if Juve can play off of that, you never know how far you can get, especially just having Ronaldo on your side. And now Dybala is starting to find his game. He's basically
Right.
I don't want to say he's in his prime, but he's about 25, 26 years old, if I remember correctly.
26,
offhand. So he's 26, right? So this is the best time for him, physically speaking, as an athlete, as a soccer player, right? So those two, the chemistry is just phenomenal. But to end off with Ronaldo, though, it's clear that Sarri deploys him differently than Max, from last year, Maximiliano, and it's clear that their systems are different. It's clear that Sarri is less organized. Last year I think Juve probably could have gone all the way in Champions League just based on how open it was. You see how it played out. If they decided not to, defend till the end of the game or park the bus, so to speak, against Ajax, I think they could have made a run that year. I really do. I think their squad was actually stronger last year than it is this year. But to get back on topic with Ronaldo, recently, I would say from the winter onwards, I'm a little bit more happier with the way Juve have been using him, trying to get him more involved in the game, trying to feed him more reliable and consistent service. Whereas in the past, it was a little bit of a struggle to get him in,
Right.
and not only assimilated but accustomed to the way that they play. Because it is different than what he was used to at Real Madrid, and it's something that I've had to learn too, right? The wheels are different at Juve than they are at Madrid, not just the way that the club is run, but the way that they play. So I've had to understand that too as a new supporter, so to speak, and learn to respect that. And I think Ronaldo is trying to adjust to that Juve system, which I think he has done well, right? He scored 21 goals last year in a shortened season for him personally, and and this year with the whole COVID break, he's doing even better, right? And he's a year older, so I think Juve can do a little bit of a better job to get him more balls, and I think that could increase his scoring, which in turn would help Juve even more offensively. But I'm not going to say that it's been all bad. I think it has improved the situation. You see him scoring his first career Serie A hat-trick, which I was really delighted to see before the pandemic hit, and him starting to score more braces, and now with this Dibala chemistry, I think it's starting to take fold, and I think it's starting to take fold at the right time because Ronaldo's not getting any younger, as we know. So I think if Juve can add some pieces around, I think you got something personally.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, no, that's kind of I always thought there was going to be a difficult jump because of the way the two teams were built. Obviously, Real Madrid and obviously Juventus. And, obviously Juve fans know what we know about our club and, its inability in transfer market activity to get a midfield for how many years now. So that's what I always found it difficult, especially when you bring in a guy that is going to need the service. I did like him running at the defenders in the game before Torino, though the way he scored that goal, that cracker of a goal. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting because a lot of guys, like I said, Serie A is a little bit more tactical, so you're going to be getting that intelligence where they're not necessarily going to fear a player, even though it's of that quality, because they'll just essentially come up to you and they'll take your legs out and they don't care. So I was surprised that a lot of teams have been backing off lately, which is, I guess, good for us because obviously we're getting the goals now. But definitely don't mind seeing Ronaldo run at and taking good chances when and obviously, being clinical about it. So definitely like seeing that. I mean, hopefully we can get more of that. Again, like you said, I like the chemistry so far, and hopefully we can keep building off of that. We'll see game by game what happens now. But I think Iguain, we'll get into the formations now that are kind of projected for the game on Tuesday. Obviously, there's not going to be much to change with Juve. I believe it's going to stay exactly the same. Cuadrado, but again, the only two changes are the players that we can have on the field, which are De Ligt and Dibala. So I think they're definitely going to go with Rugani. I think you have to. And I there was some crazy things going around on Twitter about like Cuadrado playing as center back or some shit like that, and I was just like, "What are you guys talking about?" I think he's gonna have a good game. I think he does get a lot of shit for what happened, and I think it's something like under Allegri where Allegri wasn't really, he doesn't give guys a lot of run outs. So like he's not going to give you a 2-3 game streak of playing. And I find, a lot of these players can't just be like go in for like 20 minutes and then not play for like 3 months and then give another good 90 minutes. It's tough for a player. I mean, yeah, you're training and stuff like that, but if you're not getting the rhythm of the match, it's going to be very difficult for you to come in after such a long break. So we'll see what Rugani brings. Again, it could be very interesting. We don't have any options though, so it's going to have to be what it is. And again, 4-3-3 has been working well for us, so I don't see him changing formation at all. Again, so Bonucci, Danilo. Then obviously I think Rabiot will go in again unless he feels that Ramsey's going to get a run out. So we could technically see that as well. I don't see it though. I think it'll be Rabiot, Pjanic, Bentancur. And then maybe if he's going for a little bit of change up for legs, maybe you see Matuidi or Ramsey again, like I said, but it'll still stay. Whether that means that Pjanic is out and Bentancur slides back into Regista or not, we'll have to wait and see. I still think Bernardeschi is going to get the nod ahead of Costa just because it's worked. So, again, why change it? Costa's added a lot towards the end of the game, and I think that's what we need. I think that is a perfect 1-2 punch right now. Start Bernardeschi to start, and then obviously if things aren't going well, you add Costa in for that edge. And then I think Higuain's going to get the number 9 role, obviously, up top. And then obviously Ronaldo being on the left in his usual spot. Pretty straightforward. Milan, I think they're going to play a 4-2-3-1. Again, Çalhanoğlu is potentially not going to make the game, so we'll see. But from what it looks like, they're going to have Conti, obviously Donnarumma and net, Conti, Kjaer, and Romagnoli with Hernandez on the left, Kessié and Benacer as the holding roles. This new guy, Alexis Salamakers, on the right, Paquetá in the middle, and Çalhanoğlu on the left with Rebic up top. And no, they've seemed to have a lot of success recently, so it's going to be a tough game. I think they've got some very talented players. I think we got a lot more talent than they do, and I think it shouldn't be a problem for us. But especially being on the high they're on, I think it's going to be a tough fought game. And you look at they kind of played us pretty well in the Champions League, Coppa Italia semifinal, where they plugged the back pretty well and countered pretty well, even with the man down. So it's going to be an interesting game. They're going to have confidence, obviously beating Lazio and beating us. But yeah, what do you think of the formations, Danny?
Yeah, I think the formation, like you said, is straightforward. I think it's basically all that Juve really has to not only offer, but for it to work successfully, especially against a team like Milan that's now starting to hit the ground running, and they found their form and they found their hot streak. So I think it's something you shouldn't mess with, as the old saying goes. Don't fix something if it's not broken, right? I think you should keep it. I think you should also keep Bernardeschi where he is right now. I know a lot of people haven't been happy with his performance this year, particularly, and I'm one of those to include. But I think it's also important to note that he has found his form after the pandemic break, and I think you gotta keep playing him out, right, until he goes back to that bad form. But let's hope he doesn't, right? Because we obviously speaking, you don't want to see any player fail, right? You would like every player to succeed. That way you can maximize potential and the skill offered. At the same time, Iguain's going to play in the middle, right, with Dibala out. So it'll be interesting to see how Iguain and Ronaldo will click together, because it's going to be a partnership between those two. Whereas, originally speaking, it's Dibala and Ronaldo, and Dybala's willing, to not only pass up the ball more, but he's willing to accommodate a little bit more towards Ronaldo than Ronaldo is towards Dybala. I think we can all admit. But in terms of Iguain, he's a different player, right? Because he's a pure finisher. So if Juve is going to win, they're going to have to find the balance between Ronaldo and Iguain. And at the same time, Rugani, he has to play towards what he's capable of playing, right? He cannot play. He cannot give these horrendous performances like he has in the past, or else I think Milan's going to have a field day, especially if they throw a guy on like Rafael Leao, right, who can just burn by Rugani, like that. So I think, keeping the back clean is going to be important. And, the balance between Iguain and Ronaldo should dictate how many goals Juve put in the back of the net. I don't see scoring I don't think that's going to be a problem too much. I think the game's going to be more open than what it was in the Coppa semifinals when those two played, and when it was kept at a 0-0 draw. I think it's going to be more open. So I think if Bernardeschi and guys like Quadrado, who play on the wing and even, as a wing back, if they can open up play, I think Juve can open up this Milan side and give them a little bit of a good beating.
Okay, so what, again, kind of we talked about keys in the match, all included and all that. But so what are you predicting the final score to be? And who do you think are scoring the goals for this game coming up?
Oh, God. I'm not a big fan of predicting scores, but to predict the score, I will say that I think Juve will win. I'll say it's going to be about a 2-0 or 3-1 game. I think it'll be a 2-goal difference. I don't think it's going to be a slaughterhouse. But I also don't think Milan's going to win, but you never know. They could surprise me. I have seen worse. I have seen, worse things happen and other surprises occur. The game of soccer or football, for any European listeners tuning in, there's been quite a lot of great surprises and upsets over the years and over, the beautiful game of soccer and football. So I guess we'll have to see. But in terms of the score, I think it'll be 2-0 or 3-1. And I think Ronaldo will score a goal at least. I think Iguain may, put his name on the score sheet. And I will say maybe one of the mids will score. I think maybe a Rabiot's due for a goal. Or maybe even a Cuadrado. You never know. I'd love to see him score again. I think he always scores great goals. So I think if they score 3 goals, I think it'll be Ronaldo, Iguain, Cuadrado. But I think if it's 2-0, I think it'll be Ronaldo and Rabiot. I'll throw in the surprise.
So yeah, no, I was just on the obviously Bianconeri YYZ is my official fan club. My group there in Toronto, obviously, because we don't have one in Calgary. But so I was on their virtual fan meetup, obviously, after the Torino game. But I couldn't get my camera going, so I am in that video. You just won't be able to see my face. But I definitely put in my prediction at the end of that one, so I'm going to stick with that one. I think it's going to be a 1-0 Juve win. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it's probably going to be a controversial penalty that's going to go one way, and I think Ronaldo will score to have his 26th goal of the season. But I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be pretty good. I think Rugani's going to have a really, really good game with Bonucci. I think they're going to be strong at the back as much as, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of fans of how well he can play for us, even though he hasn't shown. He's shown pretty good quality in some of the games he has come in, but again, we haven't really seen him at all this season, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's going to be a good performance from both of them, and I think it's going to be a tight game all around. I don't see it being too high of a scoring game because there's going to be a lot on the line, or I mean, it could be quite the opposite. I've been saying this kind of the last 4 games. It could be a tale of 2 where the team plays a very tough game for us, or the team just kind of lies down, and that's kind of really what I've thought of the last 4 games. There hasn't been a real push from them. Obviously, some certain events happen, being a red card or trying to outgun us and it not working at all. But I think it's going to be pretty straightforward for us. And the quality we have, even with Dibala and De Ligt out, shouldn't have a problem beating Milan. But like you said, you never know what will happen, and we'll have to see on Tuesday what happens. But let's get into a couple of questions. There's a few questions that obviously came out. Obviously, do you think Rugani will be up for the task? This is from Mo El Tactico, as he's known on Beppe Bognani's YouTube channel. Just Juve, and obviously I've had him on the podcast before, but what do you think about Rugani? I know it's we've touched on a couple of these questions, but we'll just kind of reiterate. So what do you think about Rugani?
Right. I don't know if Rugani will be up for the challenge. I also don't think he's going to have a horrendous showing, just because it's been a while since he's last been in the starting 11. I will say I am predicting I think he'll get the job done, whether it be pretty or not. I think he'll do enough to get the job done and to do his part, but I don't think he'll go above and beyond and make any, outstanding tackles or a goal line clearance. I think Rugani will do just enough to, keep his name in the good column, and to give Sarri maybe to something to think about in the future if injuries start to pile up or whatever may occur.
Yeah, okay. I think that's pretty straightforward. And again, we're waiting for Chiellini to come back. It's unfortunate that he couldn't. That I believe he's going to be in the. I think he's going to dress, but I definitely don't see him starting. They're not going to take the risk. And unless a horror show ensues, I don't see him coming on the field at all. Same with Alexandro. I believe he's going to probably dress or at least be there. But again, I don't see a risk happening unless something really crazy and out of the ordinary happens. From Iskander Juve Shaw, again, thank you for the question again. Are we going to drop 3 points for the game and let it be or fight until the end? I'm guessing he's saying just because. I'm assuming that's meaning that we're gonna. Do you think we're gonna lose or are we gonna win? We'll go with
No,
that.
I mean it's a good question. It's a fair question considering what
Lazio's results, right?
right, Lazio's results, and not only that, but what players Juve can field with Dibala and Delit out. And like you said, I thought it was perfectly stated when you said that even with those two out, Juve have more than enough quality to win this match and are more than enough, have more than enough capability to beat Milan just based on the skill difference alone, regardless of those two being in or out. So I think Juve will win. Now, whether it's going to be pretty or it's going to be controversial, like you predicted with maybe like a 90th minute penalty. I don't know. You never know with Juve and Milan. Those games usually get pretty hectic and they get hectic quickly, which makes it all the more fun to watch and, to be a part of. So
Right.
I think they will get the win so long as Sarri has the boys coming out, from the get-go and from the first whistle onto the last.
Yeah. So, and the last question, obviously from Michael from the Netherlands. Thank you again. Obviously, he's on the WhatsApp group. But who do you think Ronaldo and Iguain are kind of fit for, or who fits better, Douglas Costa or Bernardeschi? I think we kind of touched on that, but just to reiterate, I think Bernardeschi, just because it's kind of fits the mold right now, and he's played with obviously Ronaldo already, and you're only getting rid of obviously Dybala, so it's not like Douglas Costa wasn't consistently in that spot. So I think that just could that'll just work better to start. Just more familiarity with two players that have already been in the lineup, whereas Douglas Costa is a spark plug and has done a lot on the field when he's come on, but just for more of a consistent feel, I think it's just better to go with Bernardeschi and see how it goes. And if not, then again, we have 5 subs, guys. So it's not like we're hemmed into a position that we can't change if we need to. So,
yeah,
anyways.
I agree completely with what you're saying. I think based on the now, based on the current, the present, I think you have to play Bernardeschi. I think he's found his rhythm, so I think you got to keep giving him matches. That way he can keep progressing. And I think he has found a feel and a rhythm with Ronaldo, and hopefully he can create that with Iguain next game when he slots into the middle as the striker. So I would agree. I think playing Bernardeschi to start would be great. And then you can bring on Douglas Costa as like a super sub type player, which I think he's more than capable of playing that role. But the other thing I should touch on with Douglas Costa and the fact of the matter is, I think it's smart that we play him and that we deploy him as a sub, just to keep him fresh and to also avoid any lingering injuries or any of that. Because I think we all know that Douglas Costa's body is basically made of glass. He's always picking up injuries or little nicks or hacks here and there. And you know what? We need our players healthy, especially with the Champions League coming up in less than a month or so. So I think just putting them on in the last, 20 to 15 minutes just to kill off the game and, keeping his legs fresh and him attacking, tired defenders with fresh legs. It's basically a super sub, right? And I think that's a good weapon for Juve to have, because I don't know anyone else that could be deployed or used in that role. So I think it's great, and it's a great option to have. And at the same time, it seems like Bernardeschi has found his form, and it seems like he's found his place in the team. So, why tinker with that? Why ruin that? I think they should keep it as it is and keep the ball rolling that way.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of coming to the final, the little bit of the close of the podcast. We have a segment, obviously, allo stadio or a Torino. Assuming just because you're obviously a new fan, I don't believe you've been to Torino or have watched the game live with Juventus. Did I assume correct?
Yeah, I was actually in Italy for the first time last summer on a family vacation, and unfortunately, Torino was not one of the places I went. But I did end up going to see a Roma game at the Stadio Olimpico. I got to see their home opener against Genoa It was a
Oh,
3-3 draw. It
nice.
was a really great game, and
Nice.
it was my first. Actually, it was my first ever European soccer match, football match, and I have to say the crowds in Europe and especially in Italy, they just they just dwarf the fans here in North America, right? In terms of the energy, the excitement, the passion. It was just something else, and it was something great to feel and to witness. And I do hope one day to make it out to the Alliance Stadium where Juventus play in Torino, and to go watch a match, whether it's a derby, a Champions League, or even just a Serie A match. It'd be great to get down to that stadium and that region of Italy.
Yeah, no, definitely such a different atmosphere. Even, you look at hockey games and or even football games, and you think how crazy it is. How crazy they are in the U.S. for American football. But yeah, no, just completely different. And so we'll stay away from that. Obviously, it was nice that you did get to see a game. Obviously, the Stadio Olimpico was a little bit older than it should be, but oh, definitely great atmosphere. I know a couple people have gone to. I believe they went to the Roma Juve game. For a couple of friends of mine went to a Roma Juve game, obviously a few years back when, and we actually lost that game, but we still ended up winning the Scudetto. But yeah, so I saw some videos there, and it was pretty crazy. Obviously, I have relatives who are Roma and Lazio fans, like I've stated before. So that's that's an interesting topic. But obviously, again, a little bit of a short-lived, I would say, fandom with Juventus, but as of what you've been able to experience, kind of what is your most memorable Juve moment? I mean, who knows? Maybe you do have some depth in the past of a moment that had happened, but just for you, what comes to mind when you think of of a memorable moment with Juve? Obviously, it could be a goal, Cristiano, something to do with Cristiano Ronaldo, anything, man.
Sure. I would say the most memorable moment I've had with Juventus personally was when they came back and they beat Atletico Madrid. I remember being in the basement, with my father, who's Portuguese, also an avid Ronaldo fan, supporter. My sister was with me watching. She's also a pretty big Ronaldo supporter, and I've got her a little bit onto Juventus to come and watch the games with me
Awesome.
downstairs, which is great. But you know what? I think that would have to be my most memorable moment, just because they lost the first game 2-0, and
Yeah.
you're going into that game thinking, is Ronaldo going to come up big? And just after every goal he put in, the game was just the excitement, the level of excitement was increasing, and
Right.
the level of noise in my basement was also increasing, and it was just something I could bond over, with Ronaldo, who I've had a lot of great memories with, not only him playing on Juve or Madrid or even Manchester United, but also with the national team with
Right.
Portugal, who I support. He's put in a lot of great performances there, and I hope he can put in more. But that match against Atletico, it was magical, right? It was a fairy tale ending, right?
Right.
And it was that sort of Cinderella ending, so to speak, right? And
Yeah.
just to see it unfold, and not only Ronaldo's performance, but the Juve supporters, not only in Italy but around the world, because I know they have a big base, especially here in Canada and Toronto.
Right.
It was just amazing to see, and it was something great to get behind. So I'm really hoping we can get at least another match like that with Juve. Hopefully they don't go down 2
Yeah,
goals,
exactly.
because that'll be too much for our heart and our heart rates. But I do hope we can see another game like that, even if it's not Ronaldo scoring all the goals. It's just games like that you never forget, right? And it adds
Exactly.
on to Juve's rich history. And I hope I just hope that's a start to many more, really.
Yeah, no, it was too bad that it ended so shortly after that against Ajax, and I think, yeah, no, we passed up a real good opportunity that year because, like you said, it was kind of a down year if you think about it, with Liverpool and Tottenham being in the final, and you see kind of who obviously Barcelona goes down, Real Madrid goes down in the round before that. Obviously, the round before we played Ajax, but Yeah, no, crazy experience. Couldn't believe it was going down at the time. Was losing my mind and just yeah, crazy. I thought for a second there, I thought you were gonna say. For a second, I was like, "Is he gonna go? Is he gonna bring up the Ronaldo bicycle kick?" I'm like, at that point, cut the lights, guys. Cut the lights.
I have to
No, I'm
say
just
that
kidding.
was
I'm just
probably one of my most favorite Ronaldo goals, though. No offense to you or any other Juve supporters. I have a lot of respect for
yeah, just a
the
couple beers.
club, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for supporters like yourself, obviously. But that goal was just something else, right? Because you just see this random cross, and he makes something,
Yeah,
really out of nothing, right? And the importance of that goal too, right? It was a Champions League series
yeah,
that it took place on.
quarterfinal.
Exactly. It was the quarterfinals. It wasn't some average league game. It meant something, right? And
Right.
I have to say, when I saw the supporters in Juve Stadium in the Lions, when they stood up after Ronaldo scored that goal and they started clapping their hands, like, I have to say, that put butter. I don't know. I would say it brought shivers down my spine in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way, that I recognized how respectful Juve fans and the whole club and the supporters are towards great players, and I realized that crap, they really have a lot of respect for this individual, which also meant a lot to me, and the fact that they just stood up and they clapped even though they just conceded a goal.
Right.
It really changed the way I thought of Juventus. And don't get me wrong, I never thought of them in a bad light. I've always had respect for great clubs like Juventus. It would be silly of me not to recognize the level of history, the extensive history that comes with a club like Juventus. It was just something else. And I'm going to be honest, I've never seen a majority of fans in the stadium just stand up and clap for an opposing player who scored a goal like that. And not
Yeah.
only scored a goal like that, a player who, like, no offense, has had their number in the past, right? I think we
Right.
can all admit that Ronaldo has had Juve's number
Right.
quite a bit in a competition like Champions League. So when I saw something like that, not only did my respect level for the supporters and the club go up, but I have to say my admiration for the club also took and went to new heights just because of something so simple like that, as a simple gesture like that. I think it does speak a thousand words, and I hope that will only lead to a Champions League victory. And I hope that instead of standing up and clapping for an opposing player, I hope we can all stand up and cheer for Juventus when eventually we do, and we hopefully do raise that Champions League trophy, because I do think it'll happen. And I think if we continue, dreaming big and hoping and continuing to bring in players in the right areas and to help strengthen the squad, I don't see why it can't happen.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. I'll tell you, to be honest, I definitely wasn't clapping during that moment.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. I don't blame you one bit. I was just stunned. My mouth dropped. I didn't say
Yeah,
anything, right?
yeah,
It
and I
just came
was
out of nowhere.
yeah, no, honestly, one of the as a Juve fan, one of the worst matches I've seen in black and white. Just the whole setup of that game did not was not conducive to what we were planning to do. To sit back against that Madrid team again, I just still can't believe we even thought of doing that. I can't believe that's what Allegri had even planned to start that game. Was just invite pressure, and I mean, again, you can't be surprised when you lose a game 3-0. I mean, there was a little bit of a call that didn't get called right at the end of the game, but I always say it didn't even really matter. It was just a masterclass to just a shocking performance. And I'm not surprised that Juve fans stood up and applauded, because we've had our fair share of legends. And obviously there's been, other fans that have, you look at the Bernabeu for Del Piero, I believe it was 07-08 or 08-09, when he had his kind of studding two legs, that we took them down in the group stage. And that was a pretty banging Real Madrid squad that lost to a Juve team that was, questionably not even near the talent level that Real Madrid have. And then again, you've seen it obviously at a couple other places, but yeah, you usually don't see that kind of respect given. But I'm not surprised because Juve fans, I think their IQs are pretty high when it comes to the sport. And yeah, no, like I said, I hope we can win. I hope we could have won every year, to be honest. But it is what it is now, and we just got to keep fighting. Again, this year, like I said, is a very good chance. We have the all the opportunity to get the job done this year because it's going to be a wild tournament style, one leg game, and who knows what can happen. You get a good decision or you get a bad decision called for you or against you, and it can change everything because you have no chance really of turning that around in a second leg. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's supposed to be in Portugal, right? So
Yeah.
that should be good. I don't know if they're going to do anything with the fans or anything, but
Yeah, I think they're going to keep an empty stadium just because of, the whole COVID restrictions and
yeah,
what
and
you're seeing in leagues, right?
I think it should just stay that way. I know they were talking about bringing in some like different clubs members, obviously at maybe 10% or 20% capacity kind of thing, depending on where the numbers were at that particular point, because it is still a month away. But I mean, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, man, thank you for coming on. Oh, actually, before I go, yeah, no, we definitely are close. We're building this platform. We're gonna be pretty. I think within a few days, I think we'll be over 200 followers on Twitter. So, guys, thank you so much. And yeah, we're getting close to 500 on my main. So, guys, that offer still stands. That Del Piero 2010 jersey is still up for grabs if we get there. So, definitely just smash the follow on my main channel. Obviously, like I said, I'm trying to move over to the more football or obviously Juventus specific page. I think I'm going to keep the other one more for like hockey and football and everything else. But yeah, guys, like I said, the offer still stands. Beautiful jersey to be given away. And yeah, no, I definitely had a big haul at the Juve store. So they gave me this beautiful Dibala. Finally, they gave me a Dibala picture. I don't know how many orders I put in, but that's the first one. And yeah, no, definitely picked up some stuff. Buffon jersey. We got my Alexandro jersey. Shout out, Al. I still think we're gonna go back and forth this whole season on that. And then I got my Douglas Costa third jersey. And actually, speaking of collabs, I think what they got to do is they got to come up with more. They got this kind of like off tie-dye life is a matter of black and white. I thought it was going to be stitched, but I think it's still a pretty banging sweatshirt. But yeah, no, I definitely think they should do a lot more of these collabs with, obviously that's more of like, they call it an icon collection. I think they had a brilliant opportunity with Palace, and I think that needs to come back if they are willing to. And I think they just need to start looking at bigger brands, Kith, you name it, Undefeated. There's so many different, if you want to call it hype beast or streetwear or whatever you want to call it, merch. With obviously now Adidas being our sponsor and the Ultra Boost eventually coming out. I'm assuming going to be starting next season or maybe in a couple months, but definitely depending on when they start launching all these new jerseys, because I know a lot of teams are coming out with their merch or their jersey lines early. Which I don't know how that's going to work in the Champions League, but yeah, definitely have a couple things here, when we start picking up for giveaways. So guys, definitely, again, like I said, please smash the subscribe button. Obviously, trying to get to that first 100 followers on YouTube. And then from there on, and same with Twitter, just sky's the limit. The more followers, again, not necessarily in any monetary way, I'm making it worthwhile, but again, just to get more fans on here, obviously to get more fans listening, so we can hear all obviously their great stories, because there are a lot. I mean, being able to meet certain players or going to different games and certain things happening, it's been very interesting. Obviously now this being the 18th episode, hearing different versions of, everyone's fandom, and, again, from some like yourself that are just new, obviously to fans that have been here for a really long time. And again, it's just really great to hear everybody's different, obviously, opinions on different things, and obviously everyone's stories. So again, I thank you guys all. We keep on moving forward. And again, Rocco Fasano is going to be coming on next to talk the post-match. And we're going to get a little bit into the official fan club. I know there's been a couple pieces of content on it already, but I have some interesting takes for him. And let's keep moving forward. Obviously at Juventinita, DAL, Twitter and Instagram. Soon to be on Facebook as well. I think I'm going to pop that up as well, just for to make it easier for some people. As well, podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. Check those out. Again, keep your eyes posted for Twitter. That's usually where it's up first. You'll get the early links of each of the podcasts, or if you're on the notification gang, then really you're going to get it as soon as it drops. So again, guys, thank you very much for all the support. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you, Danny, for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. And guys, to the next podcast, and hopefully the next win. And as always, stay tuned. And fino alla fine, forza Juventus.
Thanks again,
Ciao.
Dan.